How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
this the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final
Who is that? There's like a really absurd person posing as like a genius who was one of the leader. There are probably a bunch of, but who's the most famous one?
Oh, like Richard Dawkins or Daniel Dennett or
No.
Christopher Hitchens.
I knew Hitchens well.
Okay.
He was a marvelous guy,
Yeah,
but
he was
totally
an interesting
wrong on
man.
that.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
legit smart.
Yeah.
No, there's another one, whatever, who's always running
Or
around.
like today, like James Lindsay is one of those types. Is that
Who's James Lindsay?
We're going to war against James Lindsay. You keep James Lindsay up at night. I got to come and visit you in his head where you live rent free. I got to come and visit Karlyn. Knock, knock. We're inside James Lindsay's brain. We're inside Chris Rufo and James Lindsay's brain where she has taken up a residence there permanently. And she's performing. She's doing shows there. She got a 10-year contract to do her talk show. No, but thank you very much. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. One of James's simps actually tweeted that. Are you fucking me? It's getting so crazy. You know what's funny is I was watching another show on Rumble before this, and it's like I was waiting for an interview to come on that never happened. And there was this guy in the chat that I haven't even thought about literally in years. He's a libertarian guy, and I don't really know that much about him, but I knew of him. He has like 100,000 followers on Twitter. And so this show, I guess, is on his network, which I didn't know when I started watching it. And so he saw me in the chat, and he's like, "Hey, Karlyn, it's been a long time." I was like, "Hi, Austin. What are you doing here?" And he was like, "Hey, you really drove James Lindsay crazy, didn't you?" And I was like,
Credit. Yes.
I was like, people saw? People saw? Like, you respected my work. I worked
Thank
so hard
you.
at this.
Thank you.
This was a year and a half of effort. This was a group effort to drive James crazy, to finally break him, and we did it. And I just feel like we haven't gotten the credit that we rightfully deserve.
I wrote a
So many-
speech. Hang on, I got a speech.
Yeah, so many
Don't start playing the music yet. Wait a minute.
So many people have worked so hard to bring this moment about, and I'm just so grateful for the love and support of everyone. And I don't want to name any names because I'll forget people, and the Oscar music is about to play me out, but this is just, I say thank you guys. Thank you for this moment. Thank you.
Totally. This belongs to all of us.
This belongs to all of us. We all have won this award together.
Thank you for the golden dildo.
Yeah.
He's calling out cults and conspiracies wild, Gnostic sex cults and theories compiled. But one question's raised and it's blocked on the spot. No room for dissent in the world he's got. But the crowd starts to laugh and they're starting to see a whole lot of words that just don't agree. Oh, Emperor James, are you feeling the breeze? Might wanna look down, see what's caught at the knees. He's the Emperor with no clothes, strutting around like nobody knows, shouting loud, thinking he's wise, but he's bearing it all to everyone's eyes. He's the Emperor, yeah, with no disguise, slipped down by his own price. Your fat is an intellectual line. Oprah's got mind control, powers divine. He's calling Saint Michael the devil in charge and telling the Catholics they got it too large. Oh, James, don't you know it's a tricky game when you're calling out folks but you're doing the same. You say it's a truth only you understand, but the crowd's got a mirror showing just where you stand. He's the Emperor with no clothes, strutting around like nobody knows, shouting loud, thinking he's wise, but he's bearing it all to everyone's eyes. He's the Emperor, yeah, with no disguise, stripped down by his own pride. Start to fade and the truth comes around. His theories unravel like threads on the ground. The court starts to giggle, the people all cheer, for the Emperor's naked, the truth's finally here. He's the Emperor with no clothes, strutting around like nobody knows, shouting loud, thinking he's wise, but he's bearing it all to everyone's eyes. He's the Emperor, yeah, with no disguise, stripped down by his own pride. So here's to the lesson, let's give it a toast to emperors walking in nothing but boast. Join Karlyn's cult and open your eyes. She's here to expose James's epic lies.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. It was a team effort. It took us years of work and focused memeing and song making and general mockery. We had to listen to dozens of hours of James talking. Do you guys know how many hours we've listened to of James talking about nonsense just to debunk it for all of you? Do you guys know the time and the sanity investment that we made on all of your behalfs before many of you knew that something was wrong? Because I will remind you that I started trying to drive James insane way before he invented the woke right hoax. I've been working on this since September of 2023. That's how long I've been working on this as an active thing. I knew James was nuts before that. I just wasn't addressing it as actively as I started to in September of 2023 because James Lindsay has lied to a massive amount of people. He has misinformed a massive amount of people. I actually do have a legitimate beef. Sometimes people forget this because I have a dry sense of humor. And sometimes you might think I'm being serious when I'm being sarcastic. And sometimes you might think I'm being sarcastic when I'm being serious. But this is one of those moments where I'm telling you I am being serious. I have specific intellectual grievances with many of the things that James has been saying to the public over the course of years, to include his completely misinforming the public on what queer theory is, queer Marxism is, and what they're doing in our world. And these are not insignificant things. The reason this started is because I am very well aware that queer Marxism, not properly addressed, is going to result in a lot of people losing their kids. This is not I actually do take this seriously. And the problem that I ran into in September, we're almost up on 2 years of me haranguing James to get him to stop misinforming the public. Because that was what this all started as. James was lying to a massive amount of people about what the left was doing. It was leading to a completely misinformed populace. And sadly for me, these are the people that we have to fight the left. We can't have them running around like unhinged hooligans searching after the wrong enemy because some asshole on the internet named James Lindsay has made up a fictional enemy that doesn't exist, but it sounds really good. And if you take clips out of context, it is very easy to fool people because unlike me and my community, most people don't actually sit around watching the left all the time and listening to the left all the time. And so if you're only looking at clickbait, outrage porn on Twitter, and you're only looking at Fox News and you're only looking at the popular conservative commentators, you think you know what's going on about the left. And then you actually sit down and you start listening to them directly and you realize you had no effing idea because the conservatives don't actually know what's happening, a lot of them. So James is very capable of conning them by taking a a tiny little nugget of truth and then covering it in a mound of bullshit. And I don't know, maybe it's dumb, man, but I actually do care about beating the left because I do think the left is going to win. And I do think they're going to try to overthrow the government in 10 to 15 years. And I do think we are all ever-loving effed if people don't start waking up. And I don't want to live in a Marxist society. I don't want to. I would get sent to a gulag or get shot. I don't want either of those things to happen. So almost 2 years ago, we started a focused effort to drive James insane, to get him to stop misinforming people about the left. And had Tim isn't even involved in this yet. We're going to talk about Tim in a second. Had James just stopped misinforming the public, we would have stopped haranguing his ass. All I wanted was for him to either start telling the truth or shut the fuck up. Those were pick one, James. Start telling the truth about what the left is doing based on the primary source evidence, or option 2, shut the fuck up. Now, James didn't shut the fuck up, but what he did do was he stopped talking about the left entirely, and now he is focusing all of his energy on this woke right hoax. And for my goals, that was kind of good enough. I was like, okay, so James has stopped teaching people about the left. That means people are going to stop being misinformed about the left. As long as James is focused entirely on this woke right bullshit, I don't actually effing care what he says and does. So beautiful. Problem solved for me. But what I did not anticipate, and which has been glorious, is the amount of pushback that James Lindsay is getting. not only leading up to this, because he's been getting a lot of pushback from the beginning, but now I feel like the dam is starting to break. Because the thing of it is James has been, and my community, we watch James all the time. Just from like a psychological case study, it's actually a fascinating thing. I feel like I'm looking into like a terrarium or a snow globe or something, and James is in the center of the snow globe, and he's created his own world, and I'm like looking in, observing this, going, what is he going to do next? What is he going to do? Like, what crazy shit is going to come out of this guy's mouth next? What is going to happen? It's like the best reality TV show in the world. I don't need to watch reality TV. I have the internet and James Lindsay's Twitter feed, and it's a fascinating psychological study. But watching just how he is able to spin up his own narrative around everyone agrees with me, these are all just bots, none of this is real. It's so crazy, but now the dam is finally opening, and people who used to support him and called me crazy when I said that he was full of shit, people that used to support him are now waking up and going, oh. And you know what? I wonder if they'll ever go the next step. I wonder if they will ever look back and go beyond the woke right bullshit, because the woke right bullshit is an obvious hoax. It is obviously fake. If you spend any time listening to Nick Fuentes and the Groypers, like at all in any way, you realize how fraudulent this is. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to fact check to listen to people you think you disagree with, then shut the fuck up. No one wants to hear from you anyway. I listen to the far left for dozens of hours a week. If I can listen to the far left for dozens of hours a week and still be an anti-communist, you can listen to Nick Fuentes for a couple hours one time to see what he actually has to say in its full form, not cut out of context. So people are finally starting to wake up, and I feel like at some point it's just going to get overwhelming. And I have to tell you, just as much as I have liked seeing people wake up, I've also been deeply disappointed in some of the people who are just going along with James's bullshit, even if they know it's false, because it supports their narrative. That's some of the most infuriating stuff. Anyway, I intend this to be actually a pretty short stream, but here's what happened. So someone posted this on Twitter. Apparently tonight, Tim Pool talked about James Lindsay and dragged him and the Babylon Bee morons for like 10 minutes. And I thought, I can sit here and watch this myself, but that's not fun. I thought I could wait until tomorrow to watch it and just do it on the stream, but I really wanted to watch it now. So I thought I would just go live on the internet and rant a little bit, and I'm done ranting now, and I want to watch this video of Tim dragging James Lindsay for 10 minutes, and then we're all going to go to bed, or I'm probably going to go back to work until 4 a.m. You guys,
over the weekend.
hang on, you guys want to watch this? Is anyone here? Can anyone hear me? I don't even know what's going on. It's almost 1 a.m. All right, well, let's just get started. Thank you for joining me for an impromptu stream. I appreciate it. All right, Tim. Do not let me down, Tim. I believe in you, Tim. Just don't talk about the left, because you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to the left. But if you just drag James for 10 minutes, I believe in you. I know you can do this. Do us proud, okay? Timmy, please.
Woke right drama. These people are smarmy, deceptive scumbags.
Oh.
They're playing semantic games. They are woke, and I call them the woke right. So here's the gist of it. People like James Lindsay. Here's what I think about James. He sacrificed his career to call out woke academia, this cult-like psychotic nonsense. It's illogical. Critical theory doesn't make sense. They say 2 + 2 = 5. None of it makes sense. And he called them out, and he lost his career because of it. He can't work in academia. But he was also irrelevant to the right. Who cares about a former academic liberal guy? So he wasn't getting any traction. He's got family issues.
James Lindsay.
Yeah, now he's like, please let me back in. I can't do this. Apparently, people are saying he did an interview with New York Times. He's trying to get back into mainstream liberal space. So he tried doing this thing where he said Christian nationalism is an op, where he attacked Christian nationalists. That does not mean Groyper. It's a different group, but there is some overlap with them.
Correct him.
That failed. Nobody cared. He spam blasted it, pissed a bunch of people off because it was irritating and incoherent. And so he started getting, like, people started saying, bro, you're nuts. He then started getting into it with people like Carl Benjamin, ultimately fizzled out, lost all relevance, and burned himself out. So now he's trying to do this thing called woke right, where he said Dave Smith, an anti-war libertarian, is woke. That makes literally no sense. Candace Owens, Aaron McIntyre, even Matt Walsh is now being called woke right. Literally makes no sense. None of it is totally incoherent. What they're doing is they're creating a blanket term for anyone on the right that is outside of like Con Inc. And then what they did was, at first they said it's because they're acting like they're woke, tried to create some criteria that was incoherent. They're trying to, this is what they did with alt-right. They said, they used the term alt-right to describe anybody who is just not a traditional conservative, tricked a bunch of people into thinking alt-right meant new right, and then at the last minute, or not the last minute, but later on, publicly declared on the AP, alt-right means white nationalist. So all the people who had called themselves alt-right had retroactively just applied to themselves white nationalist. There were people who were told alt-right meant like populist, anti-establishment. They put it in their Twitter profiles. They said that they were alt-right. They tweeted this. 5 months later, AP says, by the way, alt-right means white nationalist. And then all of a sudden, all of those tweets, all of those posts got highlighted by hate groups and other organizations saying these people have admitted they're white nationalists. That's what you've now got with James Lindsay, Colin Wright, Seth Dillon, many other individuals that have jumped on this bandwagon to label disparate political ideologies as one faction. The ADL has something called the heat map. It is hate, extremism, anti-Semitism, and terror. They say that right-wing means white supremacist, right-wing means anti-government, and right-wing means all other. What? White supremacists and anarchists, anti-government people, there's no overlap there. Like, maybe there's an anarchist white supremacist. That's a different overlap. But the idea of
there are absolutely anarchist white supremacists. I'm just saying that's like they tend to be very toxic people, and I tend not to be around them. But there are absolutely anarchist white supremacists. Tim,
of an anarcho-capitalist anti-government guy being the same thing as a white. This is what the woke do all the time.
Just to be really clear with what I just said, I'm not saying the anarchist and white supremacists are the same thing. I'm saying there are people who are both things simultaneously. There are also people who are just white supremacists. There are also people who are just anarchists. There are also people who people think are white supremacists but are not white supremacists. And it really depends on what definition you're using now. Anyway, that's all I'm saying. Okay, back. Sorry.
So here's why I describe these people, James Lindsay, as woke right. He is woke.
Yeah.
What is woke? Cult-like adherence to the liberal social orthodoxy.
Oh, so
That's
true.
why they're anti-military industrial complex, but pro-war. If it's the right war, makes no sense. Mm-hmm. This is why they say women with a Y, we mix in with an X at different times. There is no coherent logic to it.
There is a coherent logic. Tim just doesn't understand it. Tim is also at the very, very surface level of the left. It's actually almost like disgustingly sad how surface level this is, considering it's literally Tim's job to like cover this content. But no, like it's much more complicated than that. I'm not going to get into it tonight.
That's why it changes from time to time. And I would say
it doesn't change,
it's liberal,
Tim,
it's
ever.
cult-like adherence to an ever-changing social
You
orthodoxy.
just don't understand it.
The reason why a lot of people refer to critical race theory as woke is because it is a dominant idea floating among
because it's
woke
Marxism.
People, but that could come and go.
No,
Tim, no,
Tim, no. Critical race theory never goes. Just because it's not in I came here to watch Tim drag James Lindsay, and I'm getting upset. I was so happy before I started listening to Tim talk. And now it's all gone awry because Tim doesn't know that critical race theory is perpetual. Just because something is not in the news cycle doesn't mean it's gone away. It never went away. Critical race theory is taught in schools that allegedly ban critical race theory. Anti-racism is critical race theory. Anything to do with systemic racism or whiteness is critical race theory. Equity is critical race theory, Tim. What the fuck are you talking about? Critical race theory went away? Are you dumb? Again?
Woke is because it is a dominant idea floating among woke people, but that could come and go. This critical
No,
race stuff
wrong.
wasn't, in the early days of woke, we called it intersectional feminism. It changed over time, but the cult like the Me Too is a big component of it. Now
No.
Me Too isn't really relevant to what it means to be woke.
Yeah.
Woke people fly Ukrainian flag.
Oh my God. Oh. I'm not going to be here all night. He has no fucking clue what he's talking about.
How does that make sense? What does that have to do with critical race theory? Nothing.
Mhm.
So right
What
now,
does it have to do?
seeing
What does it have to do with critical race theory? Do you want me to explain, Tim? The goal of the far left is to abolish capitalism. Everything the left does is about abolishing capitalism. Every component of intersectionality relates to a component of oppression by capitalism. The left believes that capitalism is the enemy. It creates literally all problems in the world. They believe capitalism created systemic racism based on slavery. They believe capitalism created the gender binary, which created the patriarchy, which is oppression based on gender. They think that capitalism created normativity, which the opposite of normativity is queer. That's what fucking queer theory is, pushing back on the norms that uphold capitalism. They think capitalism created the environmental crisis, climate change. That's why they're active about that. They think that reproductive justice will free women from the gender binary that capitalism put them in when they put them in the reproductive role in the nuclear family to have and raise capitalist children in a capitalist society by which capitalism is reproduced, and they can't get rid of capitalism and overthrow it until they get rid of the nuclear family. Do I need to go on? Does anyone have any fucking questions about how all of these things that Tim Pool thinks are just completely unrelated are in fact related perpetually forever?
this phenomenon largely started by James Lindsay, but adopted by people like the Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon, these people won't stop talking about it. They are applying this phrase, woke right, to
Please redeem
anybody,
yourself, Tim. Redemption
making
moment
no
for
sense.
Tim.
Like, how does Dave Smith and Nick Fuentes have an overlap?
If you're a
Dave
dissident.
Smith
I'll tell you exactly how Dave Smith and Nick Fuentes have an overlap. Because James Lindsay's definition of woke right, which he gave on trigonometry months ago, literally, is that to be woke right means that you are not a Zionist and or not a classical liberal. And you can be one of those things or you can be both of those things. Nick Fuentes is not a Zionist. Nick Fuentes is not a classical liberal. Dave Smith is not a Zionist. Dave Smith is not a classical liberal. Candace Owens is not a Zionist. Candace Owens is not a classical liberal. Orrin McIntyre is not a Zionist, to the best of my knowledge. Orrin McIntyre is not a classical liberal. Every single person that James Lindsay is saying is on the woke right is either not a Zionist or not a classical liberal. And most of the time, the vast majority of the time, it's both. Another extra feature of the woke right is it's anyone who James doesn't like. So if Tucker Carlson hasn't had James back on his show to talk about his crazy unhinged conspiracy theories, then Tucker Carlson has to be woke right, and James will start looking at Tucker Carlson to pick out clips out of context to say, here is why he's woke right. Because he's pissed off at Tucker Carlson about something else. This is exactly what James did in the magazine that he sent that hoax Communist Manifesto paper into. Because the reason he chose the magazine he did to submit that fake hoax paper was that he didn't like the publisher. He was in an ongoing perpetual feud with this guy online, or the publisher or the editor or something like that. Nate Fisher, that's who it is. That's one of the people that James is always fucking feuding with. So James took an opportunity to try to embarrass him by putting his fake Communist Manifesto, which he said he just took the Communist Manifesto and just changed a couple of words, but in fact, he rewrote 90% of the document and then pretended he didn't actually do a massive rewrite, and then submitted it to the publication of someone that he doesn't like, that he's in a Twitter feud with, because he wanted to embarrass him and then say, woke right, thank you, American reformer, thank you. That is the definition of woke right. I don't know why this is so difficult.
Anti-war libertarian Jewish guy and comedian. That's it. Mm-hmm. Nick Fuentes is a groyper. There's already words used to describe their political ideologies. So what happens now is these former liberals, I should say they're current liberals, they were upset over the woke cult bringing in ideas like gender theory and race theory. They said this will destroy liberalism, and it will destroy our political faction. Stop doing it. But they were overpowered. So what did they do? They adopted right-wing talking points. Even some of them voted for Trump.
True.
That is to say, they are liberals who never disagreed with the tactics, but they disagreed, I should say, with the overt strategy, but they disagreed with the particular ideologies that were brought into the fold of liberalism because it was destructive. So they created a coalition with the populist right. And now that critical race theory and critical gender theory are largely being curtailed, light bulb.
Critical race theory and gender theory are largely being curtailed, Tim? Critical race theory and critical gender theory are largely being curtailed. Is Tim aware that very recently Judith Butler gave a talk at the New College of Florida? The New College of Florida is supposed to be the anti-woke college. It was the college that had, or still has, I'm not quite sure, Christopher Rufo on their board of trustees. The New College of Florida did a big-ass media campaign, what was it, like a year ago or so, something like that, where they made this big show of throwing out all their gender books. They put all their gender books in the dumpster. And all of the woke students were leaving the university, and they were going to turn this into the conservative public university in Florida. Does everyone remember this? Well, about 2 months ago, Judith Butler gets invited to go give a talk at the New College of Florida. And wouldn't you know it, we watched the whole talk on this channel. Chris Rufo tweeted later that it was a rigorous talk, but the thing of it is if you actually watch the talk instead of just taking Chris Rufo's word for it, Judith Butler got zero pushback for her crazy gender ideas, and Judith Butler's only goal in doing that talk at the New College of Florida was because she actually wanted to make the case that New College of Florida should bring back gender studies, and she was welcomed onto campus by the faculty, and they were kissing her ass the entire fucking talk. Judith, you are so great. Judith, you are so amazing. We are so lucky to have you here, Judith. She got zero pushback. The video's online. Don't take my word for it. The video of this talk is online. You can go watch it yourself. If the New College of Florida took it off their YouTube channel, because they damn well should have been embarrassed by it, I covered it on this channel. You can watch literally the whole talk from start to finish. Judith Butler got zero pushback for her crazy gender ideas that have influenced an entire fucking generation of queer activists. There is an entire generation of kids today that think that gender is not real and gender is a performance because they learned it from Judith Butler. And this is the person that a couple months ago, after the New College of Florida was supposed to be thoroughly the anti-woke College of Florida, they weren't spending any Florida money on this woke shit. Judith Butler was welcomed onto campus to give a talk and talk about all her crazy ideas with zero pushback, zero opposition. And then she actually, at the end of her talk, made the pitch that gender studies should come back at the New College of Florida. Well, a couple weeks later, we were watching a different talk that Judith Butler gave on my channel. This time, Judith Butler was working with socialist book publisher Haymarket Books, and she was giving a talk at Haymarket House, which is a socialist venue in Chicago. And in that talk, to the group of radical revolutionary socialists, Judith Butler says, and the New College of Florida bought 250 copies of my new book and gave it out to students for free. So question, Tim, you really think that gender ideology and critical race theory is being curtailed? It's back at the anti-woke college that is the New College of Florida. They literally just bought 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book and gave it out on campus for free to students that were supposed to be there to go to the anti-woke College of Florida. Don't you tell me that gender theory and critical race theory is curtailed. I can find a million different examples of things that have happened, maybe not a million in the past couple months, but I could definitely find probably hundreds of examples, not even trying that hard. Actually, hang on a second. Hang on. While we're here, let me show you this. You think you've curtailed things? You think you've curtailed things? This is a socialist teaching magazine called Rethinking Schools. We just went to a teacher training led by the people that run this last week. What is on their homepage of the Socialist Teaching magazine right now? Teaching the fight for queer liberation. This is a lesson plan to use in K through 12 schools to teach queer liberation. This is on the cover of their fucking magazine. Teaching LGBTQ plus movement history. Teaching kids how to be activists. You go through their back issues, you can see the other things they're teaching too. Teaching Palestine, multicultural education. What do you think that is? Critical race theory, transgender justice in schools, teaching for Black lives. These are their newest books that are out. These are the people running the teacher trainings that the teachers are going to in your kid's school district. Are you comfortable with that? I'm not comfortable with that. And furthermore, and probably the most important thing, not that, this I have right here that you couldn't see just then. The most important thing is that Tim is 1,000,000% wrong when he says that these things have been curtailed. They have not been curtailed, and anyone that's trying to convince you that they have been curtailed is trying to sell you something. Please do not buy it. Look at the primary source evidence. You don't have to take my word for any of this. You can look at the primary source evidence and see for yourself. All right, please, Tim, I was told this was a good 10-minute video of you talking about how much James sucks. Can we please focus on how James sucks and you stop talking about the left?
We now need to reestablish control over the liberal orthodoxy.
True.
How do we do that? Punish anyone outside of our space. First, draw the battle lines. If you're to the right of Con Inc., you are now woke right. That's the phrase we're going to use to describe you. Here's how I say it. They are woke people who adopted right-wing talking points so that they could control the liberal orthodoxy the way they wanted it to be.
Very true.
The best way to understand this is Dave Smith and Nick Fuentes have nothing in common, except they're critical of the war in Israel in different ways.
They're not
Candace Owens, she does celebrity gossip, as well as she's critical of Israel. Aaron McIntyre, he's like a civic nationalist. Mike Cernovich, Matt Walsh,
not
these are
Zionists,
like run-of-the-mill conservatives.
not classical liberals.
They've started to label everybody because this is what the woke has always done. Create a term to describe your enemies, attack the perceived enemies, lie about what they believe. Another example is Karlyn Wright falsely framed my argument, claimed in a post that I said liberals.
Karlyn Wright is one of the biggest fucking con artists in the anti-woke space. We watched the first podcast he did with Brad Palumbo, where they were supposed to be talking about queer studies, like studies that were like looking at different aspects of like queer theory or whatever. Karlyn Wright doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Like, it was one of the most ignorant kind of analysis of studies that I've heard in a long time. And I'm like, you're an evolutionary biology PhD. It wasn't just a little bad. It was a lot bad. And I didn't expect a ton from Brad, to be honest. And that's no offense to him. I think he's smart on some things. He did not come across as smart in that show, though. But Karlyn Wright's performance in that was abysmal. And also, he's an intellectually dishonest douchebag. And Karlyn Wright is dating or marrying or something a hardcore porn star that we're still unclear if Karlyn Wright actually knew that Christina Buttons was a hardcore porn star when the rest of the internet found out that Christina Buttons was a hardcore porn star and is still working at the Manhattan Institute today, even though the Manhattan Institute fired Glenn Loury, who is a black economist from Brown University, who is almost universally respected. They fired Glenn Loury, but they still are employing Christina Buttons, who is a hardcore porn star who isn't producing any journalism, because the Manhattan Institute, as we all know, is the home of colorblind meritocracy. Anyway, did you ever see the review of Queer Tarot? No.
In general are woke adjacent, never said that, and then showed past tweets of mine where I said I was a liberal. And then a bunch of, this is what the woke people do. They deceive and lie to get power because cult-like adherence to their orthodoxy is what makes their political faction. I consider myself to be somewhat socially liberal, even economically liberal, and then conservative in some ways. Maybe family stuff. Liberals used to be for that. I don't see how being a liberal precludes family stuff, but I digress. So I'm not opposed to liberalism, but it is completely illiberal to lie about the political beliefs of entire groups of different ideologies to attack them as one. The fact that they are lying to steal political power and trick disaffected liberals into marching in lockstep with their liberal orthodoxy is wokeness. And I can describe it another simple way. When Donald Trump won the first time, I said, I'm not a fan of him. I don't like the way he behaves. It's a lack of decorum. However, liberals, stop making me defend Trump. They say, did you know that Donald Trump called Nazis very fine people? No, he didn't. Why are you defending him? I'm not. I'm telling you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at now. These people who are trying to push this op against all conservatives and gatekeep are saying, Tim's, you claimed he was a liberal, but now he loves Trump so much.
Yup.
No,
Correct
I just hate
him.
you for lying and accusing people of something they're not doing and creating fake reasons to rally people against the populist coalition.
Okay,
These
we're
are
back.
smarmy scumbag liars.
Yup.
I get really heated on this because I'll tell you, the one thing I hate the most in everything, when the media lies, when the left lies, and if the right lies, I'll call them liars.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've got these disaffected liberal types now trying to lie to steal political power, to shore up their control over liberal orthodoxy, this is what these people do. They are woke.
Yep.
They just don't like the tenets that were brought in by progressives. They would gladly have you fired from your job. They would gladly have all of these things, these bad things happen to you, but they just want it under their terms, and they're going to cut everybody out. That's the game that's being played. I think they're looking at like the liberal side of things has crumbled because of these critical theories. How do we reestablish the liberal orthodoxy so that it adheres to a moderate concept? Okay, they're lying about people, falsely accusing them of things they never said. That's the game. That's the game. And you are going to end up, you already are. What we're already seeing is disaffected liberals who voted for Trump now believing the false narratives being pushed by these people. It's smarmy scumbag BS.
Yep. Okay, the back half of that was good. The back half of that, Tim was on point. He does have a basic mise-en scène of what's going on. My question is this. Is Tim going to now maybe take the time to continue to reverse engineer things? Because the question that Tim and everyone else should be asking themselves is this the only thing James Lindsay has lied about? Or is it just the latest thing that James Lindsay's lied about? Is it the only thing that Colin Wright has lied about? Or is it just the latest thing that Colin Wright has lied about? Is it the only thing the scumbags of the Babylon Bee have lied about? Or is it just the latest thing that the scumbags at Babylon Bee have lied about? Because if people are willing to, is this the, and by the way, Konstantin Kisin has gotten very quiet, hasn't he? Where has Konstantin Kisin gone? Because Konstantin Kisin was one of the first people out there saying, woke right, woke right, woke right. He was one of the first that made the video about it. Where's that gone? Konstantin Kisin, he lied about this. What else has he lied about? That should be the metric. Because if someone is willing to lie about something this effing stupid as this woke right hoax, then they're going to be willing to lie about other things. And so this is why I always use primary source evidence in everything I do, so that you never have to take my word for it. I will show you videos of the real radical far left, and you can look at what they're doing and judge for yourself what that means. And I will do my best to try to break down the language, but I will never say anything that I do not have at least one video, if not several effing videos, to back up every single thing that I say, that I can show you to say, you don't have to take my word for anything. We're not doing pinky swear, trust me, bro bullshit here. That's James Lindsay. That's Colin Wright. That's Konstantin Kisin. That's the Babylon Bee assholes. Phil Labonte, too, man. Phil Labonte has been up James's ass for a long, long, long time. What's he thinking right now? How much has James lied to him about? Because I'll tell you this, I know for a fact that Phil Labonte talked about an idea on Tim's show one time that came from me. The origin of it was from me. James stole it from me, passed it off as his. And the reason I knew this was the first time I heard about this, was I DM'd Phil Labonte and I said, thanks so much for talking about that on the show. And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. I got that from James. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? That was mine. And then James, I caught him on video later doing the exact same thing again. So... And then Phil Labonte decided that he didn't want to look at my video receipts. He just wanted to block me on Twitter. So I wonder if Phil Labonte is ever going to have an honest conversation with himself and say, maybe have I been lied to? Maybe this isn't the only time. Maybe this has really been going on for years. Maybe that crazy bitch that has been screaming about this on the internet literally for years. Maybe she had evidence all along that I just didn't bother to look at because I didn't want to take the time because I'm a big rock star, bro. So tiring. It's so fucking tiring. It really is. It is so tiring always being ahead of these people. Some might think it's a good thing. They're like, oh, you know this stuff before anyone else. I'm like, yeah, I know before anyone else. And then no one believes me. And then they call me crazy. And they spread lies about me. And I never get an I told you so. Because no one ever apologizes. No. I'm not going to do that. No. All right. Well, that's all I really wanted to do. I didn't want to stream forever tonight. I just wanted to watch that clip and maybe complain a little bit. I actually ended up complaining way more than I thought I would. So I am going to bed now. Anyway, guys, I will be back at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Come hang out. We'll watch some socialism. I will show you the real shit that no one else on the internet's showing you. Take care, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you soon. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you here?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.